is gonna work, Steve.
I know it is. Because I don't know what I'm gonna do if it doesn't.
There's not even a question that this is the best superhero movie ever made, and it might possibly be one of my favorite movies of all time. In this video, I'm going to give my thoughts on the film and break some things down that I found interesting or that have to do with the rest of the MCU or Marvel Comics in general. I'll also talk about the future of the MCU at the end. I should warn you that this will be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and don't want it to be spoiled, then turn this off and come back after you see the film. Also, I just got my wisdom teeth out, so I'm a bit sore, but I'm fighting through the pain to record this, so just bear with me if I sound different or more monotone or whatever. Now let's get this review started. This video is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Secure your internet today.
How about that?
Now, when I say that this is one of my favorite films of all time, it's not because it's super artsy or has amazing cinematography or anything like that, but simply because it has so much build up and so many amazing moments that they knew that fans would love. If you're invested in the series and have seen all of the movies, this movie will mean a lot to you, and you will get hit with a lot of feels and many different scenes. This is the 22nd film in this universe, and they incorporate almost every character from all of those films, plus a few from the TV shows as well. The overall plot with the time travel and going back in time was expected by almost everyone, but the way that they did it, I'm sure almost no one expected. They did not use the time stone, which is probably the biggest theory of how they were going to save everybody, especially after it was so important that Doctor Strange gave Thanos that stone. When they start the plan for time traveling, they mention pretty much every famous time travel movie you can think of, specifically Back to the Future Part 2, which is actually another one of my favorite films. They did the same formula as Back to the Future Part 2, going back to the events of the previous films and seeing themselves from a different perspective, which was really interesting. Seeing the characters make fun of themselves or make fun of their old costumes was really funny. My favorite was probably the America's ass line. One thing I did not expect was how the beginning played out, with Thanos dying an almost pathetic death, though we later find out from the Thanos of the past that it was the end that he always wanted. Also, the 5-year jump threw me off a lot too. It was handled quite nicely though, and did not seem forced or unnatural. It felt as though it was meant to be that way. The eerie vibe of how much loss those remaining felt was very well portrayed here as well. The main Avengers that are left seem to take this loss the hardest, specifically Thor, who becomes an alcoholic and gets fat, which is funny at times, but if you look deeper, it's quite depressing and says a lot about his mental state. He knew that he messed up by not going for the head, which ultimately he does, but by that time it's too late. You see how much it affects him 5 years later when the name Thanos is brought up in front of him. He tried so hard to bury it, but ultimately his demons still come up. Natasha also took the loss very hard and tried her best to stay busy, but as Cap said, everything she was doing could be pointless, and he asked if anyone had to do it. Cap was pretty messed up too, but he went on to help people, because this snap was not the first time he was in this position. He had to go through this alone when he woke up in the 2000s after giving his life in the 1940s. Hawkeye probably lost the most, losing his whole family along with his team, and was probably the most messed up out of all of the main Avengers, going on a killing spree. Bruce and Tony were probably the best off after the snap. Bruce finally learning to control the beast, having the best of both worlds, the brains and the brawn. And Tony finally settled down with Pepper, and he finally had a daughter. Each character changes so much in the aftermath of Thanos, and each has a reason to go back and change the past. It's fascinating, really. The writers sure have figured these characters out, and they showed what drove them, what held them back, and why they felt the way that they did. Also, the writers also threw in that when they go back in time, each of them has a moment to remind them of their past, most of the time it being very tragic. Tony talks to his father, and this one's actually good, because he realizes that his father truly did care about him, and that he was not as bad as Tony thought. Cap saw Peggy for a second, which ultimately was probably the reason he chose to stay behind, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Thor gets to be reunited with his mother on the day that she actually dies, and finally opens up to someone that he truly loves and trusts. Bruce sees how he used to be, and how far he's come since the events of the first Avengers movie. And finally, Clint and Natasha are reminded of how they met, and how Clint saved Natasha, and how it was now Natasha's turn to save him, which I actually predicted in my last MCU video, which I'll link below.
Like the old man said. Together.
This was a send-off for Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. There's no doubt about it. They knew that this was their last time in a Marvel movie, and both gave phenomenal performances. Both of their character arcs come full circle. Cap gets to go back with Peggy and live the life that he always dreamed of. Tony's arc is the most important, however. He has come full circle with the line,
I am Iron Man.
He is the reverse Thanos. He has two kids he's fighting for, Morgan his daughter, and Peter Parker, who he saw as his son, while Thanos had Gamora and Nebula. Both snap their fingers with the stones, and in doing so, both wipe out the other's team and loved ones. They both lost everything trying to get to their goal. Thanos' goal was wiping out half the universe, and Tony's goal was saving half of the universe. And let's not forget Thanos saying, "I am inevitable," while Tony says, "I am Iron Man." I love the way that he celebrated at the end. It's a real tearjerker, especially if you're invested in the series of movies. We've been with Tony since 2008, and we've watched him grow from an arrogant businessman to a wannabe superhero, to a real superhero, to a man who no longer wants to have the responsibility of being a superhero, and now to being the savior of the world. There's really no better way to go out than that. We all knew that those who died in the last film would come back, as most of them are the future of the MCU. And hell, Spider-Man even had his trailer Far From Home come out before Endgame, so it was no surprise when they did come back, but that did not make it any less special. Watching all of those characters join the original Avengers literally made a tear come out of my eye, and I don't normally cry in movies. Starting with Black Panther was the perfect choice, and hearing that chant again gave me chills. It was crazy how many characters came out to fight. There were too many to even count. The Guardians, Doctor Strange, Falcon, Bucky, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, Valkyrie, and so on. It might just be the best team up that I've ever seen. And the icing on the cake was finally hearing Cap say, "Avengers Assemble." Something we've been waiting to hear since 2012. For longtime fans, there were a lot of hidden details and payoffs that we've been waiting years to see. There were of course the lines that were re-said, like,
I got this all day.
or Thor saying that he went for the head.
You should have gone for the head.
And as I said before,
one thing you can't take away, I am Iron Man.
Which again is probably the most significant line in the whole film. We finally saw Pepper in her Iron Man armor, which was teased back in 2013 in Iron Man 3. We also saw Captain America pick up Thor's hammer, which was teased in Age of Ultron when he moved it a tiny bit. It was also cool to hear Cap say "Hail Hydra," which was of course in the Marvel comics, but they did it with a bit of a twist here. To be honest, I thought he was going to say,
"Does anyone want to get out?"
like he did in Winter Soldier, but I like this a lot better. Now, as good as the film was, I did have a few complaints, but to be honest, there were barely any. I wish they did more with Captain Marvel. She ended up being right. She said that they lost last time because they didn't have her. And now that they did have her, she took out Thanos' ship, the one thing that probably could have stopped them. Another thing that I did not like, and this is probably my biggest complaint, was Clint's arc. I feel like even if he did lose his family, there's no reason why he should go that bad. And if he did go that bad, I don't think that mentally he would be able to go back to his family just like that. He was a brutal killer who showed no mercy and killed hundreds of people for no reason really. When he was asked why he was doing it, he said that Thanos let them live, so now it was his job to kill them. I feel like they just wanted to throw in the Ronin arc for no real reason. One thing I did really enjoy about Clint's arc though was his relationship with Natasha. Other than that, I don't really have any other complaints. The ending of the film was great, and giving the final Avengers their send-off with the actors signing their autographs was the perfect touch. The most emotional were of course Natasha, Tony, and Steve, who it looks like are now done with the MCU. So what's in store for the future of the MCU? Well, we have a new Captain America, Falcon taking on this mantle. I was surprised and a bit disappointed that they did not go with Bucky to take on the mantle, because that's one of my favorite Captain America arcs in the comics. But I'm sure Falcon will make a good Captain America. We still have a whole roster of heroes like Spider-Man, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man and the Wasp, the Guardians, and of course Thor, Hulk, and War Machine. So there are still plenty of heroes in the Avengers, ready to fill the shoes of Cap, Iron Man, and Black Widow. It looks like Thor might be joining the Guardians. This is perfect, because Thor finally hit the success mark in Thor Ragnarok when they made him funny instead of serious.
That's what.
Chris Hemsworth is a funny dude, and he's naturally funny on screen, so he'll fit in well with the Guardians. His box office sales have only gone up, so he's still a lucrative member of the MCU money-wise, so I have a feeling that he'll be around for a while. Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk signed on late, replacing the original Hulk played by Edward Norton. That 2008 film is almost not even canon anymore, and is just forgotten. But anyway, Mark Ruffalo's contract still has a few more movies, so he'll be around for a while as well. As to who will take on the lead of the Avengers, if I had to guess, I'd say Falcon, or the new Captain America, Doctor Strange, and Captain Marvel. They'll never be the same as Steve, Tony, and Natasha, and the writers would never try to make them like those three, but I think they might have a lot of the same dynamic, with Strange being older, a lot like Stark, Falcon being Cap, and Captain Marvel being Natasha. I'm excited for the future of the MCU, and I'm very happy with this film. It was everything that I expected and much more. It blew me away, and I walked out of the theater feeling satisfied, sad, and excited for the future. This video was brought to you by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is a must-have for me. I buy a lot of different films, production equipment, and cool collectibles and props online. And with ExpressVPN, I can make sure that my credit card and personal information stay safe from hackers. Before using ExpressVPN, I got hacked and ended up having to cancel my credit card, had to get a new one, and had to spend over an hour on the phone trying to sort it out. Now that I have ExpressVPN, I don't have to worry about that. I now feel safe and secure while browsing. Take back your internet privacy today and find out how you can get 3 months free by clicking the link in the description box, expressvpn.com/movieflame. It's a great deal, less than $7 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Thanks so much for watching, guys. You can follow me on social media. Links for that will be in the description. And I want to give a huge shout out to all my patrons listed below. If you want to be listed on my next video, plus a bunch of other rewards, check out my Patreon, which is linked down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you press that subscribe button to help grow the channel. Again, thank you so much for watching, and look out for more great videos on the way.